Na hii nini yenu leo ikoje? Leo ni yangu inaleta shida. Haifunguki.
Ulicharge?
Sijana nilizima ikiwa 60%. Ama ina charge? Siku hizi zinaisha tu hivyo. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for finding time to be with us today. The show is Kenya and Africa at a Glance. My name is Miriam Mugutu, and good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuned in today. Just about 5 minutes past 9 a.m. here in Nairobi, East African time. On the show, what we get to do, in case you're joining us for the first time, I'll take us through quickly the headlines on the leading newspapers in the country, and then later on we shall have conversation based on this and other regional newspapers. And so we'll start with the Standard newspaper, and the main headline on the Standard newspaper: Kalonzo, man who holds Azimio's fate. Wiper leader has kept allies and rivals guessing. Will he join hands with Raila and Uhuru? If he will, why has he welcomed Moses Kuria, their critic, into One Kenya Alliance? The next 12 days will reveal his true colors and shape a presidential poll. The story is on page 4 on the Standard newspaper. High-flying Kenyans splurge on helicopters. When other Kenyans were feeling the economic pain of COVID-19, the wealthy were importing aircraft, probably for campaigns. The story is on page 31. And a shock of dead voters still in IEBC register, and now risk to integrity of polls. A new risk to integrity of polls emerges amid revelations that voters' list has not been audited as law demands. The story is on page 8 on the Standard. Deadline for varsity slots set for April 1st. You'll find that on page 3. And Kenyan students caught up in Ukraine conflict. That is on page 14. And 100 investors eye special economic zones. That is on the counties on page 23. We turn our attention to the Daily Nation, and the main headline: Raila, Kalonzo tensions spoil Azimio plans. That is what we have there on the headline. And then why Mumias is Miwani in the making. That is on page 10. And CS assures on security during test. That is on the back page on the Daily Nation. Route brokers UDA poll packed from Nyeri to Kirinyaga to Tharaka-Nithi. In Narok, the Deputy President is turning the negotiated democracy to counter internal wrangling and competition among allies in grassroots politics. That is on page 6. And Kenyans battling rare diseases. That is on the Healthy Nation column, I guess. And then on economy, experts cut Kenya's growth outlook. A global economist have marginally cut Kenya's growth outlook for 2022, largely on rising external debt cost and reduced investor confidence ahead of the August 9th polls. That is on page 14. And then we head on to the Star newspaper. Why dead voters could rise from the grave to vote. Verification could face legal hurdles as the law requires the audit to be conducted 6 months to the general election. That is on page 4 and 5 of on the Star newspaper. And NYS corruption suspect guilty in 105 million Kenya shillings IEBC tender case. That is on page 9. And price of wheat flour could rise over Ukraine war. That is on page 10. So that is what we have on the front pages. And of course, Mudava demand in bitter war with the UDA over running mate. That and some of the rest of the headlines that I've gone through is what we shall be discussing today. I'm joined by Daniel Wesonga, our correspondent and in-house analyst from Nairobi. Daniel, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for finding time to be with us today. Daniel, can you hear me? Okay, so we're having a bit of a problem with the connection, but once he's able to join, I think we will continue with this conversation. And maybe as we wait for Daniel to join and then we start with it, let me just bring us also up to date with some regional newspapers I have with me here, and then we start with the daily, the daily news from Tanzania. And Pandit C economic clip, that is the main headline. And the Citizen also from Tanzania, government softens blow of spiraling oil prices. That is what we have. And SADC steps up war on terrorism with new centers. And then the Daily Monitor from Uganda, NSSF mid-term access rules leak. That is on page 4. And still New Vision from Uganda, deadly chemicals in local market vegetables. You'll find that on page 7 on the New Vision. A New Day from Zimbabwe, CC, Kwekwe, violence, police finger ZANU PF. That is the main headline. And then Daily News, NPRC strives to temper tensions as major political parties welcome the initiative. I think that is from Zimbabwe. We do have one Daily News from Tanzania and the other one from Zimbabwe. So, and sometimes the outlook usually could confuse, but I think that is from, yes, this is from Tanzania, from Zimbabwe. And the Punch from Nigeria, federal government to airlift 2,000 Nigerians. Evacuation begins Wednesday. That is because of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. All right, and then we go to the Guardian still on Nigeria. Hurdles as Nigerian companies take over 10 IOCs or onshore assets. So that is what we have, and some of those regional newspapers. So I'm joined by Daniel Wesonga. If you can hear me, Wesonga, very good morning to you.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Miriam, at our headquarters in Nairobi. Good morning to our viewers here in Nairobi, Kenya, East Africa, Africa, and the rest of the globe. It is my pleasure to be on the conversation this particular morning.
Very well. So let's just start from this headline on the Star newspaper. Why dead voters could rise from the grave to vote. The story is on page 4 and 5 on the Star newspaper. The country is staring at an August 9th elections with unverified register containing the names of the dead. It has emerged. IEBC on Monday said it had failed to secure an independent firm to audit the register of voters with 5 months to the general election. Verification could face legal hurdles as the law requires the audit to be conducted 6 months to the general election. A smaller sample has been suggested. An audit of the register is meant to, among others, eliminate double registration and remove the dead from the register. As CEO of the electoral agency, Marjan Hussein, spoke of fresh challenges. 9 Western diplomats, including the U.S., called for free and fair elections and a smooth handover of power. So already, Daniel, and I think this is something that we've been speaking on, IEBC seems to be behind schedule in so many and very vital, important, things that they're supposed to have done as far as, readying for the elections is concerned. The voter cleanup register is supposed to have been done, 6 months, at least by now. That means if IEBC starts doing that right now, which I think they are or they will, obviously it contravenes the law, because it's already late. So even as they go on with this exercise, already that is an electoral law, that is being broken there, and somebody somewhere is just sitting down and watching how these things are playing out.
Yeah, Miriam Wafula Chebukati is the epitome of incompetency and ineptitude at the helm of the IEBC. Remember, this is a man who, in history of Kenya, was the first IEBC chairperson to bungle a whole presidential election. And he is sitting on a commission which is actually has been termed by the Supreme Court, the highest court of the land, as an illegality, because it bungled the 2017 presidential elections, and it was ordered to open the servers and be able to fix the mess that it caused in that particular election. But until today, we have not seen any person from IEBC being held criminally liable for the mess they did in 2017 in bungling a presidential election. We have not seen even Wafula Chebukati taking an action in either reprimanding or maybe even taking a shockers action against these employees of IEBC, or even maybe showing efforts to open the server as ordered by the Supreme Court. Is it still at night in France, as he said some few years ago in 2017 during the case hearing? Why has he been adamant to open the servers? So therefore, Miriam, that tells you that this is a criminal enterprise, and there's something bigger that Chebukati is hiding than the Kenyans know. And that is why everything in IBC seems to lag behind. Why is it doing so? Because we do not have oversight. IBC is operating like a cartel with no one to actually oversee whatever is doing, whether is it right or wrong. The other time, they were actually tendering for the printing of ballot papers. The tender has had to be quashed twice by the committee that oversees that particular process. And even today, the company that has been given the tender to print ballot papers in Greece is a pseudo company, a company that is actually infiltrated by cartels and other shady individuals, which cannot guarantee Kenyans a free, fair, and credible elections. Because if people can be able to pay bribes to this Greece company, then be sure enough, Miriam, that people will go there, get ballot papers, and come and be able to bungle the elections once again. But Wafula Chebukati, in his own wisdom, saw it quite viable to give such a particular company the tender to print the ballot papers. Worse still, Miriam, when you look at even the country itself, Greece is a country at the verge of collapse. How do you go to such a country and give them a tender in billions of shillings to be able to print ballot papers for a country that is very stable, a country that is doing well in terms of democracy and all that? So I believe, Miriam, the problem at IBC is bigger than we are thinking about it. Whatever we are seeing on the newspapers is just a tip of the iceberg. If an audit was to be done at IBC, then they will be able to unravel a lot of damning information from tendering, procurement, and even just leadership and conniving activities that IEBC is doing with other political players. For example, you remember during the Punguza Mzigo debate during the BBI era in post-2018, post-handshake time, Ekuru Aukot of the Third Way Alliance, an alliance or a party which does not even muster a quarter or a third of the Kenyan population, was able to garner 2 million signatures. Where did Ekuru Aukot get 2 million signatures when in an election that he ran in 2017, he was not even able to garner 80,000 votes? That actually calls for some questions, to be raised against the integrity of IEBC. The only possibility that Ekuru Aukot could be able to get 2 million signatures for his Punguza Mzigo initiative was through working in collaboration with IEBC legally to acquire these signatures from the voters register. And the register that we are talking about today, Miriam, is the same one the newspaper is talking about, a register from way back in 1991, where dead voters have not been expunged from this register, where people who moved from Kenya or even changed their citizenship have not been expunged from the register. Mm-hmm. So we've been carrying forward a register which is unaudited from way back from 1991 to today. You can imagine how much data that is and how much has not been cleaned from such a register, in that anybody can actually be able to become an imposter and vote on behalf of a person, maybe perhaps who voted some years back and right now is not an eligible voter. So to me, Miriam, we are having a confusion in IEBC, and this confusion in IEBC is being fueled by Wafula Chebukati, Wafula Chebukati's ignorance and ineptitude at his job. And I don't know why we should continue having Wafula Chebukati at the helm of IEBC if he is not serving the interests and the agenda of the people of Kenya of overseeing free, fair, and credible election. And an election, Miriam, is not a one-day event. It starts from cleaning of the voters' register, registering new voters, making sure that these new voters are sensitized about their need to come out in large numbers and vote. And then now the rest of the process, which includes casting their ballot papers on the voting day, counting of the ballots, transmission, and the eventual declaration of the winner is the last process. So it is not a one-day event. And if Wafula Chebukati is failing in tendering process for the printing of ballot papers, is failing in cleaning the register, then Miriam, we are actually hurtling towards a disaster as a country. So we ought to be very careful. Wafula Chebukati cannot guarantee Kenyans free, fair, and credible elections come August this year. So therefore, that is the hurdle we are facing, and is actually a grave danger if you are going to continue in such a path, Miriam. I submit.
Okay, thank you. So in case you're joining us, I'm just going through the newspapers this morning, and on page 4 and 5 on the Star newspaper, why voters could rise from the dead to vote. That is the conversation that we are having. Now, questions surrounding the integrity of the voter register emerged when the IEBC team led by CEO Hussein, Commissioner Francis Wanderi appeared before the National Assembly's Public Accounts Committee on Monday. Majan told the Oversight Committee chaired by Ugunja Member of Parliament Opio Wandai that the Commission initially advertised for an independent firm to conduct the audit, and only one firm applied. The firm was disqualified for being non-responsive. After hitting a snag, the agency started the process afresh and only closed the tendering process on Friday last week. We advertised for an independent audit firm to audit the voter register. The firm was found to be non-responsive. We have since re-advertised. This time we got more than 2, and we hope we will get a firm to audit our register. So they've not even settled on a firm to do this audit this register. So way far from the required time. We are joined this morning also by Jevan Karanja. Jevan, a very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you, Miriam, and our viewers, and my friend Daniel Wesonga. It's a pleasure being here. This is a fantastic morning.
Okay, nice to have you. So, as we've seen, IEBC has not even started the process of actually auditing this register, and we, the period that is supposed to, according to the law, 6 months before the general election. So even as IEBC continues with this process, obviously it will be breaching, the electoral law, the Act on the electoral laws, and what does this pose, even as far as the integrity of this process is concerned?
Thank you very much, Miriam. And I think the IBC is an institution that is supposed to be doing its work continually without really waiting until we are heading to a general election, because now they are running against time to do all these audits to ensure they do the procurement and the other processes that are supposed to be in place before we head to August general election. I think they slept on their job, because they should be updating this voter register continually without really waiting to have a general election. I think what they should be talking about is the addition of voters, and I think that by the system that are in place should update itself automatically. Therefore, as the Star headline says, there's a high possibility, if things are not done the right way, we'll have the dead voters again, waking up from their graves, coming out, casting their votes, and going back to their graves. Therefore, it is high time as a people we come together and ask IBC, led by Wafula Chebukati, to do things the right way and guarantee Kenyans credible election. Because these things, Miriam, they work by perception. If Kenyans have a perception that IBC will not deliver credibility, we will not deliver verifiable results, then we'll have other teams, especially the politicians who are the key players in these elections, castigating the body. And that goes a long way in ensuring that their supporters also have a kind of resistance from the results that will be announced by the IBC. Therefore, I think the IBC should be held accountable for any miscellaneous or for anything that will happen the wrong way when it comes to 2022 August general election. I think Wafula Chebukati needs to wake up, the commission needs to wake up and ensure that we have credibility and we have good results as we head 2022 general election. Thank you.
Very well. Now, a source at the Commission told the Star the IEBC is considering seeking a legal opinion from Attorney General Kihara Kariuki as MPs questioned a clean-up of the register outside the law. It is true that any move to audit the register from our end may face legal obstacles. As a Commission, we will seek the opinion of the Attorney General on the way forward, a senior member at the Commission said. And I don't know what kind of opinion they think the AG will give them as it is. The law is the law. IBC is still facing other legal hurdles, but this one will be key because how do you operate outside of the law and still think that you're sitting there preparing for an election? Really, and if I was listening to part of that conversation yesterday, and the commissioner was saying, they did not have enough money to start this process earlier, and then you would wonder at what point did this process start? And of course, we know other preparations have been going on. Should they not have given this, priority because they knew this, because the requirement by the law in terms of the time and when this is supposed to be done? So of all the preparations and everything else they've been paying for and preparing, should this not have been given, the priority so that they're able they would have been able to start the process early enough, understanding very well that this was very time sensitive? Daniel.
Miriam, IBC is a commission which is now used to operating outside the confines of the law. And I really wonder why they are putting Honorable Sabina Chege under such duress and the acts of intimidation. When the commission itself, right now, as we speak, there is a case court, another case court, besides the Supreme Court ruling of 2017, we have another case court where the BBI was actually rendered null and void. And in that particular case, the IEBC is also touted to being illegally composed. And despite the fact that it was illegally composed, it has been able to conduct 51 elections. So in this particular regard, we are talking about 51 elections being on the line, Miriam. So I believe some of these mistakes by IEBC, are they intentional, or maybe Wafula Chebukati does them maybe in total oblivion of whatever ought to be done? But me, I think from where I sit, Wafula Chebukati does these while knowing, because right now, I don't think, just like you say, there's much the Attorney General can be able to offer them, because they have really done a lot of things outside the confine of the law. And I've just talked about even the tenders that had been annulled previously, where IPC had gotten into partnerships with companies with questionable reputations. And it seems this is a man who is very, very much hell-bent in ensuring that the commission does everything in contradiction or contrary to the law. And that is where now the problem is, Miriam, because once again, if Wafula Chebukati is allowed to conduct a general election with such kind of mentality and illegalities, then we might find ourselves again before the Supreme Court. And just like the 2017 presidential election, where a whole presidential election was nullified simply because a simple question was asked of where do they take these spoiled votes, then the same could happen with this current election. The issue of having dead voters in the register is not as light as maybe Wafula Chebukati might think. It is not a light matter. The issue of tendering which company prints ballot papers is not as easy as Wafula Chebukati thinks it is. Because in 2017 presidential election, we also, 2013, if I'm not wrong, we also had an issue with the ballot paper printing, where an Arabic country, Al Ghurair, had been given the tender, and integrity questions were raised about the company until the matter went to court and it was settled by the courts. And more the same, Miriam, I believe, with this particular matter, someone might just go to the courts and the particular tendering process might actually be annulled. And therefore, it is not a light matter as Wafula Chebukati might think it. So to me, I think we might have a legal hurdle in this particular matter, which might cost the country billions of shillings. So I don't know why we are taking it lightly. And if it were maybe, as per my opinion, I think we need to have a different person other than Wafula Chebukati overseeing these elections. I submit.
Very well, thank you. And as we know right now, we are already about 5 months, to the election. So the law that states 6 months, this exercise should have been done at least 6 months to the general, election. So it's out of line already. So for the IEBC to think they will go to the AG and to see how they can operate outside the law. Any Kenyan, as you have mentioned there, Daniel, can walk into a court and challenge, the integrity of this process based on that. And should any Kenyan decide to do that, just Javan Karanja, then what are we staring at? And are we really going to have these elections in August?
Miriam, we are really staring at a very clivy situation because the things that Wafula Chebukati is doing, he is just running this institution like he is in a country where there is no constitution, or a country where law does not take its course. Because when this guy goes out there doing procurement without following the due process, when this guy is out there carrying out by elections, Miriam, and the same time, Miriam, when we saw the nullification of the BBI, to some extent there was this issue of IBC not having the right quorum. Therefore, I think these things should have done earlier. And I think the problems that we had in 2007, they all culminated from a short day process, an electioneering process that could not have which didn't capture the integrity part of it. And I think if we don't want to have a repeat of what transpired in 2007, 2008, we need to do the right thing. We need to have the right commission. We need to have people who adhere to the law. And by that time, Miriam, we are advised to be settling the issue of electioneering, the process, to ensure that it is done 1 year prior to the general election. Now we are 6 months to the general election, and the IBC is still running up and down, trying to fix the house. And that is why, Miriam, if any Kenyans goes to a court of law and points a loophole in this process of this electioneering process, we might be forced to extend the term of President Uhuru Kenyatta. We might be forced to extend the limit of members of parliament, so that the IBC prepares adequately and guarantees Kenyans credibility. Because at the end of the day, Miriam, it's not about the election, it's about the results that indicates the willingness of Kenyans, that indicates the feeling of Kenyans. And I think that is where we should concentrate. That is where our members of parliament should concentrate. There's no need to go for an election that will cause headache. There's no need to go for an election that will be chaotic, that will cause people forced to relocate from their places. I think the right things need to be done. And Miriam, this is the same commission that oversaw the 2017 general election. And the presidential election was nullified. And there are some points that the court gave to IBC. And they worked to open the servers, something that they have not done to date. They worked to put their house in order, something that they have failed to do till today. Therefore, this is a body that is not bothered about the credibility, is not bothered about the future of this country. And on the same note, we have seen members of parliament allied to deputy president saying that there are plans to steal, there are plans to rig these elections. Therefore, these are allegations that should not be taken lightly, and it's upon the IBC to prove that these elections will be free, unfair. We don't want to see a scenario like what transpired in 2017 or in 2007. Thank you.
All right. And Daniel, even as we close on this conversation, we do know that there is the Elections Amendment Bill 2022 that is being spearheaded by the IEBC itself, and the bill is currently before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. But because we've talked about this bill here before, but this part is not in the bill. So is this an oversight on the side of IEBC, or is this even intentional? I don't know. But let me just read you a bit of what now the IEBC feels might be just the cure that is needed for this quagmire, in what signals a possibility of the Commission going into polls with a contaminated register. Marjan quoted the law said the audit was only mandatory for the 2017 polls. In other words, this part of the Constitution is only applicable for the 2017 elections. Otherwise, it does not matter if that is that part of the requirement is met on this election or not. And this is what he continues to say. It was mandatory to do the audit in 2017. So if it was mandatory to do the audit in 2017, you've not cleared out the register. And in even the previous elections, we've had the issue of dead voters coming up to vote. And this has been a real issue. And that's why it was a requirement in 2017 to clean up, the register, and seeing where we are right now and how these campaigns have been going and what is at stake. You want to tell us, IEBC, that it will be okay for us to go to an election with a contaminated register, and you feel this should not be a requirement in these elections. Now, this is interesting. So according to the Elections Act 2017, the Commission may, at least 6 months before a general election, engage a professional, reputable firm to conduct an audit of the register of a voter. So they're saying because the Act uses the word may, and it's not shall or will, so they're taking the usage of the word may to mean it's really not a requirement per se. It is you can or you cannot. You may do that. So it's really not put there written on stone. So it's something that they might opt not to do. But looking at where we are, as I've said there earlier, with Songa and everything else that is at stake, a clean voter register, has to be part of the deal for us to be assured of a free, fair, and verifiable election.
Very absolutely, Miriam, because an election where some numbers do not actually really tally up could actually be a bone of contention if anyone was to go to court. Because if you are using the same register as, it's just the same maybe thing, Miriam, where maybe you are working for a certain company, you have a list of clients and the people you are doing business with, and you move to another company, and instead of maybe starting a new list of people you're engaging with, you actually insert the names of the new clientele into the old database that you had. Even for yourself, it will be really confusing to be able to retrieve the data itself. And owing to the fact that our elections have gone digital, where now even the register is no longer a manual register, but a digital one. And therefore, there is a high need to do an audit and be able to strike out voters who are not eligible in that particular register. So allowing the old voter register to be part of these new numbers of voters who have been who are eligible to vote is actually providing room and ground for electoral malpractice on the side of IEBC, and therefore hiding behind the smoke screens and theatrics that they are looking at a phrase in the constitution which maybe gives them a leeway to escape with that is not quite sufficient enough, because someone might take them to the court, and believe me, apart from being ordered to do a cleanup on the register, IBC, like they usually do, will pay millions, hundreds of millions in terms of legal fee for that. So some of these blunders, Miriam, I tend to believe they are intentional on the part of IBC, so that at the end of the day, someone is able to take a cut in these legal fees. Someone is able to benefit by corruptly working in cohorts with certain political pairs for their own benefit at the expense of Kenyan patriots. So to me, I believe, Miriam, this is intentional. And Wafula Chebukati, if you were serious people, Wafula Chebukati would have been out of that office like yesterday, because he has proven to be incompetent, he has proven to be ignorant, and whether by design or by coincidence, he actually does the wrong things over and over again with the total disregard of the law. And that is something that we should be worried about as a country, owing to the fact that electoral malpractice and elections in particular have always been the cause of our election violence. You know, we've always had violence emanating from our electoral process, and if we have an electoral body which does things with an abandoned recklessness and negligence, then we are actually making a recipe for this chaos that we've been experiencing every election year. So we cannot be doing the same thing the same way and expect different results, Miriam. For IEBC to stand, Wafula Chebukati must fall. And therefore, we have no business as a country, if you are serious about these elections, of going to these August polls with Wafula Chebukati at the helm of it, because some of these things I personally believe are done intentionally. And if Wafula Chebukati was quite honest about maybe seeking the assistance of the Office of Attorney General on certain legal matters regarding IEBC, he will have done that in the correct time frame. Not only when we are left with less than 6 months to the elections, when he's running around asking maybe for legal advice on how to proceed on such particular matters. For God's sake, Wafula Chebukati is a lawyer, and he ought to know better, more than a layman, that some of these things are better done earlier than late. So I believe, Miriam, that could be intentional blunder to give a certain political quarters an advantage over the others, or even just to bungle the entire elections in particular, so that someone gets a cut out of it. We've had him asking for more funds to be pumped into IBC. And it seems they are actually eating some good money from there. We know of the Chicken Gate scandal, where people are bribed in tendering for ballot papers and many other equipment to be used in an election. And therefore, it seems like when we are having more elections conducted, repeat elections and all that, Wafula Chebukati is actually making a kill out of IEBC. But we have to remind him that soon his time will be up and an audit will be done. Any money that was wrongfully paid to IEBC, or any scenario that led to the loss of public money through the negligence of IEBC will be paid back. And therefore, as he acts today, let him know that any mistake that he commits at IEBC will come to haunt him later when he leaves office, Miriam. I submit.
Okay, thank you. And of course, the troubles in the IEBC do not end there, as now the IEBC is facing a dilemma in shortlisting its new CEO. I wonder why they even decided to, this will be the time, IEBC, to get a new CEO, and all they had time. The commission had time to go through the process and shortlist a new CEO, because it has not been with the CEO for a very long time. But this will be the time IEBC, thinks is very appropriate in the middle of preparing, an election to get a CEO with only 5 months to go. And so some electoral experts now say that the IEBC should pick a new broom as its CEO 5 months to the polls. There are, however, questions as to whether there is sufficient time for an outsider to take over and learn the ropes before the elections. The IEBC on Monday shortlisted 5 individuals for the top job, among them Hussein Marjan, who has been acting since 2018. The commission is raising again it's time to recruit a CEO to take over from Ezra Chiloba, who was fired over alleged gross misconduct. On Monday, elections expert Brian Weke said IEBC must get fresh blood to restore confidence in the management of the elections. The IEBC needs a mind with fresh thinking. We need a totally new and different person as the CEO said working. Now, the former IEBC consultant on electoral matters warned that unless the commission settles on a new person with a strong grounding in election management, the commission will continue with their past blunders. And if you recruit someone from within, then you will be perpetrating the same mistakes that have dogged the commission, he said. The 2017 election was nullified by the Supreme Court of what was blamed on grave errors by the Secretariat that resulted in irregularities and illegalities. And so there you go. Javan. So IBC thinks this will be the appropriate time for them to start the process of, getting a new CEO. And they had all this time since the last elections to get a new CEO on time.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And I don't know why IBC love working at the last minute. Or why cause all these delays when they had all the time on their side to do and go out there, source for a new CEO, and ensure that the commission is well constituted. These are just ways of creating loopholes and ensuring that we don't have credibility as we head to 2022 general election. Because the best important thing why we go for an election is the results. Because the people who are mandated to release the results, to count the votes, those are the most important people in this electioneering period. Because there are people who can make this country stand, or there are people who can make this country fall into pieces. Therefore, I'm surprised, and I really don't understand why IBC should just be sleeping in their office, getting their pay, and these people are well remunerated. Therefore, I don't know the excuse that they will give for causing a chaotic election. And I think, Miriam, also in the part of our parliament, the parliamentarians, they should have looked at this issue a long time ago, because they are the people who are mostly affected. In every electioneering period, we have people running to our courts, claiming that they were rigged out. We have people running to our courts, to the Supreme Court, to the Court of Appeal and High Courts, claiming that the election was not free and fair. I think it's upon them to ensure that they streamline this body. And if they see loopholes, if they see gaps in the process, they are the people who should raise the highest alarm, because at the end of the day, they are the people who will go direct to the field, and IBC will be their referee. But we have members of parliament who are not really concerned, and I think there are some members of parliament who benefit from all this confusion, who benefit from this process that is not free and fair, because it said, Miriam, in various quarters, the political kingpins, the big politicians cause the shots in the political parties, and to some extent they end up pushing these people all the way to parliament or to senate or to the gubernatorial seats. Therefore, I think there are people, even in the parliament, who are not keen in ensuring that we have a free and fair elections, because they are beneficiaries of these poorly done elections. But I think constitutionally, IBC should not take sides. IBC is an independent body that should work out, should carry out its role without depending on what is said by politicians, because they are not partisan. They are not part of the game. Theirs is just to oversight and ensure that we have credibility in this process. Therefore, the IBC has failed on that. And as they source the CEO, I wish they get someone who will have the public confidence, someone who will motivate Kenyans, or who will bring that perception that the process was done in the right way. And they should bring someone who is not known to take side politically, especially in this Oka, Kenya Kwanza, and the Azimio politics. Because if they bring someone who, in one way or the other, has shown interest in supporting one of these outfits, Miriam, it will not augur well with other political players. Therefore, they should carry out a very open and transparent vetting process, so that we get the right candidate for the position.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Javan. Daniel, suppose they bring a new person for the purposes of voter confidence and integrity and all that. Suppose they bring another person, because the process of getting the new CEO has just started, so we don't know when this will clear. And now we're just 5 months to the elections, and we know the process, the tendering process, and all this. It's a whole event, that has started, last year, and so on and so forth. So if they bring an outsider to be the CEO of the commission right now, when will this person learn the ropes? When will they know what's happening? They've not been part of any of this preparation. So will it be in the best interest to get a new person who has not been part of the preparations of the elections, and we only have a few months for us to get to the elections, or should they pick somebody who has been part of the commission, who at least understands and has been part of the preparation of this election, so that it's easy to transition and to just continue with the work? So which one should the commission go for at this time?
Miriam, I don't think getting even the CEO right now will have any implications to the forthcoming elections, and that is why the Constitution actually gives a much longer time frame before we can be able to effect such changes at IEBC. So this particular juncture in time, I believe we are time barred, and if any change was to be done at IEBC will actually be in contravention of the Constitution. So I believe IEBC will hold the elections, but Wafula Chebukati has to be reminded that everything rests upon his shoulders as the chairman of IEBC. If this country will go to war because of bungled elections, then it's Wafula Chebukati who will be answerable to the whichever court that he will be brought to answer to those particular charges. And I believe the CEO might not do much because, the process of this particular election already started with the tendering of ballot papers and everything. So everything is actually catered for. And even if you were to bring in a new chairman at the helm of IEBC, it would actually require more than 6 months to be able to do an overhaul and clean the mess at IEBC. So we have to accept as a country that we messed up when we had Wafula Chebukati overstay at IEBC, and the only solution that we might have helped in maybe changing the situation is actually having the BBI, which recommended that the electoral body should actually be overhauled so that we repair the core of the problem that we've been having over the years of fixing our electoral system. But without the BBI, I don't think we have much, we do have much optimism into IEBC or maybe even the elections that are going to happen. Not unless the individual aspirants, the presidential aspirants, become so vigilant so that something cheeky does not happen. But under Wafula Chebukati, you don't just maybe, you don't be quite maybe optimistic of something, or maybe quite sure of anything that might happen. So that is what I believe. And maybe as going forward, maybe let the employees of IEBC, other than Wafula Chebukati, also show the patriotism they have for this country by just doing the right thing. But the leader of IEBC, the chairman of IEBC, is a man who has failed this country once, and he's more bound to fail us again in August this year if we are not careful. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much. And still staying with the IEBC, it looks like that is all the conversation we shall be having this morning, because it's important. It's a very important conversation. And there's a story that concerns IEBC again on page 9 on the Star newspaper. NYS prime suspect Benson Geddy was Monday found guilty of forging documents that his company used in the tendering for IEBC solar lanterns worth 105 million Kenya shillings in the 2013 polls. Geddy was convicted alongside his co-director Joyce McKenna by Milimani Anti-Corruption Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi, also convicted alongside the three former IEBC employees Gabriel Mutunga, Kennedy Ochai and Willie Kamanga. Mugambi ruled that the prosecution had proved beyond all reasonable doubt that they committed the offences. Now, on Geddy and McKenna, the court said they are guilty of presenting fake documents to IEBC to secure the tender to supply solar lanterns to IEBC. He dismissed Geddy's defense that he had nothing to do with the company named Solarmark Limited. And I think that is That is great and a win for IEBC. But while I was watching this story yesterday in one of the local news channels here in the country, I was reminded of, and I think this is a conversation we've both had here, perhaps maybe over a year ago, the overpayment that IEBC made on the last elections in a tune of 27 million Kenya shillings to a company. IEBC has never bothered to go recover this money. And also the money that was used to hire security during 2017 elections in this country. While we know that elections is a matter of it's a national responsibility. So the national government provides for security in every part of this country during and the preparation during the voting and the counting, during the whole process. The government of Kenya offers security during the electioneering period. But the IEBC in their budget spent so much money, I can't remember how much, but it was quite substantial to provide for security that they could not prove that they actually used this money on security, and they were being questioned and they did not have a good answer. So while we have others being held accountable for engaging in corruption in 2013, can you imagine that this is when the verdict is being made right now? Can now IEBC go further and be accountable to these other allegations, that they still have to deal with in regards to corruption and mismanagement of money, even as they seek more money to the commission? Jervin.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And IEBC should first be held accountable for their previous mistakes, or they should be liable for all the mistakes that they did in previous general elections, and they should be held accountable. And if there's any taxpayers' money that got lost, is upon the agents that are mandated to fight corruption and to ensure that we have transparency in these institutions, to ensure that everyone who was involved in those kind of process are brought to book before IEBC asked for additional money. And Miriam, the issue of election in this country has been a problem, Miriam, since the days of ACK. It was called the ACK or something. Then we had the IEBC, all these bodies, Miriam. There is a common denominator, and that is unfairness, that is corruption, that is a process that is not well structured. And I think if we need to have a really credible elections going forward, Miriam, we need to go to the root cause of all these things and ensure that we do an overall cleanup of the electioneering body to ensure that from the CEO, the commissioners, and all these people, even at the constituency level, they are all cleaned up. We sanitize everything so that we can talk of credible elections. Because at the end of the day, we have people who keep changing position in these bodies. Maybe in the last election, they were commissioners. When we go forward, they change to be the CEOs. They go to the secretariat. Therefore, we rotate the problem in the same place, expecting different results. That will not happen. And I think if really Kenyans want credible elections, if really Kenyans don't want to fight because of contentious presidential results, it's upon all of us as a people, it's upon the parliament, it's upon the Senate to ensure that they clean this house and ensure there's no corruption. Because, Miriam, the people who end up feeling the pinch of these overtaxed, people who end up being overtaxed are Kenyans to repay all this money that is getting lost in the IEBC and the other government institutions. Therefore, I think something needs to be done the right way and ensure that the IEBC, as we move to 2022 general election, we have credibility, we have transparency, and we have verifiable results. And that will happen if we do an overall cleanup exercise and ensure that anybody who has been in any way aligned or touched or used a public penny in a miscellaneous way, they are brought to book. Whether it's Chebukati, whether it's the other secretariat members and everyone else, we need to start taking action so that we avoid the pain and the pinch that we go through when Kenyans go on the street demonstrating and destroying property because of contentious elections results.
Very well. Thank you so much, Daniel. Close the conversation for us.
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And of course, now whatever you just brought on board actually sums up whatever IEBC is always up to. Whoever is at the helm of IEBC is there to make a cut out of IEBC. These are profiteers who are there to grow rich and make money out of our electoral body. But sadly enough, they're doing it at the detriment of the Kenyan people. Because when IEBC holds bungled elections which are shambolic, then it's the Kenyan taxpayer who pays through blood, property, and displacement, because that has always been the hallmark of our electoral violence, where people are killed, people are displaced, people are actually brutalized by these violence across the countries where we have the counties where we have the hotspots. So that is what they have been doing, and therefore relevant agencies that actually oversee a prudent usage of public coffers should actually swing in action and be able to do an audit and keep an eye on Wafula Chebukati and his cohorts at IEBC, because these are people who are going to profiteer as Kenyans actually miss out in expressing their will at the ballot through conducting a free, fair, and credible elections. So, Miriam, therefore, time is of essence in revamping IEBC. The earlier we do it, the better for us. Otherwise, this country is straddling towards the path of violence and chaos if Wafula Chebukati continues to act with impunity and the reckless ineptitude that we are seeing at the moment. I submit.
Okay, I see that we have only 2 minutes, and I know today we've not gotten so much into the politics, and we know all the headlines. It's just politics, but I think there's a letter yesterday from the ANC that really seems to be pointing us towards maybe there could be trouble in that coalition, in Kenya Kwanza coalition. So I'll just read that story shortly, and maybe we'll take that about 30 seconds each to respond to the story. Now, Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala has denied that any power-sharing deal has been reached under Kenya Kwanza Alliance. The deal, Mr. Malala said, will be reached by Deputy President William Ruto, ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi, and Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula. At our level, we will engage with the likes of Mathira MP Rigathi Gachagua because we are not presidential aspirants segmenting the country into Mount Kenya, Western etc. is not the vision of Kenya Kwanza, he said. The senator was reacting to comments by Mr. Gachagua that the DP was the presidential candidate for Kenya Kwanza and a running mate would come from the Mount Kenya region. And to be precise, Western Kenya, if we talk of numbers, we have numbers, Malala said. He said they will negotiate on behalf of the people in Kenya Kwanza. We strongly believe the Kenya Kwanza is an idea that Kenyans want, and we are forming a coalition that will liberate Kenyans from the hands of few leaders who don't care about the well-being of the ordinary Kenyans. And ANC Secretary General Simon Gikura said that Kenya Kwanza Alliance plans to unite the country and end ethnic animosity through mature politics devoid of toxic division, narratives. And so you saw that letter from ANC that was addressed, I think, to the person of Gachagua to clarify some of the things Gachagua had made, and ANC was issuing its stand. So I don't know how you see this playing out and what is happening there. I'll start with you, Achievement. Just 30 seconds or so.
Thank you so much, Miriam. And I can tell you for sure, as we move to 2022 general election, this outfit called Kenya Kwanza, they will show us a lot of dramas, and we should expect, this is just a tip of what we should expect from that team, because at the end of the day, Musalia Mudavadi, I don't know what deal they got with William Ruto, that he abandoned Oka and joined the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. And it said, Miriam, all these guys have been promised the position of running mate. Rigathi Gachagua, I said that he bought the position. Musalia has been promised the same position, and that is why we are getting all this push and pull. But Miriam, from what I see, William Ruto, at the end of the day, will not risk having a Kalenjin Kikuyu ticket. Therefore, Rigathi Gachagua and the likes should brace themselves for a better and for a very tough fiasco as we head to 2020 general election. Because William Ruto, from where I sit, he is not ready to gabble with the Kikuyu Kalenjin ticket, because for the last 10 years, And since independence, Miriam, that has been the ticket that has been exchanging position.
Okay.
I see, and Miriam, I can say this is a Mudavadi Ruto ticket. That's one I can see it from a glimpse. Thank you.
All right. And could that be that maybe, Daniel, Gachagua is feeling, we've been with the DP from the start, and the support that we've been having in Mount Kenya is because we worked so hard for us to maintain that. And now we do have Miss Jenny come lately in the name of Mudavadi and Ntagula. They seems to have taken the front seat. I'm being told we need to wind up. So maybe this is a conversation we should have after the next show. So Daniel, I apologize, but I'll keep that in mind. When we come back, we'll start from there because we have to go now. All right, thank you so much. We have to move over to the next show where Dr. Matanga will be at CAS TV, and we will be streaming that show here live. And then after that, we shall come back at 11 a.m. and we shall continue from where we just stopped as we look at another topic that we shall be dealing with at 11 a.m. I apologize, Daniel. This has been Kenya.